Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you guys. Obviously, I was on a little vacay, so before I left, I tried to somewhat pre-record an episode and make sure we got it out for Saturday. So I was gone Friday all the way till Tuesday, and then I just got back, and so today is Wednesday, getting it recorded, probably get it posted super late this evening, and then we'll have kind of a standard Saturday issue as well. But because of all of that, the most recent Saturday issue was really just me getting ahead on some backlog items and didn't really get an opportunity to read the books from last week. So this week's Omega run, almost exclusively, I think it's all except for one, is going to be the current books from the previous week. So basically the pulls from the 16th is what most of these books will be. I know there's one backlog in there for sure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So as you can see, we got Absolute Batman number 10 right here. For all the books, for the audio listeners, I'll just go ahead and read through them real quick. Brief reminder, if you're brand new to the show, all of these reviews are spoiled to heck and back. So if you do not want spoilers, it's just not going to be the podcast or the video for you. So just kind of bear that in mind. But with that being said, we'll go through these 10 books in this order. So we have Absolute Batman number 10. We have Absolute Flash number 5. Imperial number 2. Death of the Silver Surfer number 2. The New Gods number 8. Phoenix number 7. This is the backlog issue that I was referencing. G.I. Joe number 9. Zatanna number 6. The Tin Can Society number 7. And Redcoat number 13. So it'll be those 10 books for this review in that order. And how I like to do these review formats is I'll let you know what I gave it on League of Comic Geeks, which of course is the database that, most people use anyways for tracking what books that they have, their pulls, so on and so forth. So my score, compare that to what the rest of the league is thinking and people that actually reviewed it, where they scored it. I'll give you a brief synopsis of where we're at, try to catch you up on the story, let you know whether or not it's a good place to jump in, and then just overall my take and recommendations. And then for the video folks, I go through some of the artwork as well. So we'll do that through all 10 of these. So with that, let's go ahead and start off with Absolute Batman, as you can see on the screen. And I will say, just from the jump, let's go ahead and talk about it. This book is absolute
perfection.
So good. So good. 5 out of 5 is what I gave this book, because it absolutely deserves it. Pun intended. Lee gave it a 4.7, so very highly scored book. If you recall from the previous issue that I did, podcast episode, we like to mention, what books are trending for the picks of the week each Saturday, so we can just kind of see, okay, what did I actually pick up? What am I missing? How much of the stuff that I'm actually talking about is what everyone else was jiving and picking up on, and, was some of the good stuff. And from the previous week, the Absolute Batman was like 45%, something like that, which is very, very high. Out of all the hundreds of books that come out every single week, that's what was ranked number 1 by 45% of the audience. Huge. And so I read this one. I was thinking like, okay, maybe not. And then, honestly, in a couple pages in, you already know that this is going to be an incredible book. And then by the time I get to the end of it, I was like, wow, definitely deserves a 5 out of 5. So the reason for that is the narrative thread that this book takes you on. Holy shit. So to catch you up, remember, everything is spoiled, so just keep that in mind. You've been warned. This is the last time to get out. So for this book, we are immediately placed back and pick up from issue 9. So Batman has been captured at this point by Bane. He was trying to go into the Arkham Project. It's not really an asylum, but trying to figure out what all is happening there. And it looks like there's a whole bunch of experimentations that are taking place. As he makes his way through, he runs into Bane. He's captured by Bane, and now he's being tortured and experimented on. So Batman wakes up, He's in some sort of room, and a lot of the narrative is some sort of doctor providing some sort of voiceover, and basically like an audio log of like, doctor's note, doctor's record, patient 27 is his name. They explain all the stuff that he had on him, that he had to go into the infirmary, be sedated, and now they're basically trying to break his soul so he won't like break out. But we don't really know specifically what they're all doing for this experimentation. Batman breaks out and he's trying to escape. Then he runs into what only looks like a variation of Clayface. Then Bane captures him, beats the crap out of him, sends him back to the infirmary. Then it looks like they finally have him down and out, and he does some crazy thing like MacGyver type stuff. So I guess there were bats shitting guano from the roof of the cell, and he was taking the guano, putting it into the toilet, and MacGyvered some sort of bomb out of it. They thought that, for sure he lost his will because he stopped eating, so they put a feeding tube into it. He turned the feeding tube somehow to redirect that stomach acid out of him. So when the doctors came in, he like spewed that all over their face. Insane, gross, disgusting. And they shoved one of their like faces into the guano, which blew up the cell. He got out again. This time he gets out, and it looks to be some sort of poison ivy this time that is out there. Bane runs into that poison ivy, literally rips the head off of like the twig plant poison ivy, beats the crap out of the Batman, sends him in one last time. And then at this point, it seems like, okay, he's completely broken, he's completely busted. They started injecting him with the venom, right, the juice of like Bane and everything. But this time they actually want to test him. So they give Batman his suit. And he actually says, no, he's not going to do it. But then he looks back at the suit. Of course, he puts it on, breaks out of the cell again. And then he runs into Bane this time. And throughout the narrative, it's a pickup from the last one. It was a friend of his who was going to go into a boxing fight. And it really seemed like he had no shot. But Bruce was like, we can probably figure out a way of how you can beat him. But they kept looking at the film, and the guy just looked unbeatable that he was going to face. And so when he breaks out this time, it's like both of those stories are coming together. Of course, he runs into Bane again. And when he runs into him, he's fighting him, but then he gets pushed into like some sort of experiment thing. And it looks like, Batman's down and out again. And then at that point, this lizard, and it's like the most freakish looking lizard, jumps out and attacks Bane, and it looks like it's going to attack Batman. And Batman says, Croc, is that you? And his friend was nicknamed Killer Croc. So it looks like somehow, some way, they got his friend and they experimented on him and they turned him into Killer Croc. And so then there's this incredible shot of him riding on Killer Croc, and he goes and escapes out of this Arkham, experimental laboratory. And then at the very end, we find out that the doctor, her name is actually Dr. Arkham, and it looks like Bane is like, okay, good, thank God he's out. Now I can actually hurt him. What? Mind-blowing. Incredible story. Oh, so much fun. So let's go ahead and show some of the artwork here, because man, it is just non-stop between the visuals and then also the storytelling and narrative that they have going throughout here. And now actually looking at this, it's like, oh, that's who that was. That was like the reptilian Killer Croc basically that they had there. You can kind of see some of the teeth is tough to see with the glare a little bit, but some of the teeth that they have up there as well. So here's where he is in his little cell, going through all the notes of everything that's happening. Here's where it takes place in the past. Oh, and I should also mention this span of being healed up and everything takes the place over months. It's like a pretty long process. And his mom's like looking for him the whole time. But this is where he gets healed up again. And then he breaks out again, trying to fight through. This is where Poison Ivy runs into him. And then he's brought back. Here's where he's shot up with the venom, and he doesn't necessarily want to go back out, but he does. Look at that full page right there. Man, just so good. Here is where they're fighting some more. It looks like it's down and out again, getting his ass handed to him by Bane, and then he gets thrown into that exhibit. And then here is where he realizes who it is. It's like Way. It was like whatever Way is his last name. But his nickname was Waylon Killer Croc Jones. And like, look at that. Are you kidding me? Ridiculous. Like, what a scene are we talking about here? Insane. So he goes and he runs out, and then that's, of course, where Bane says, okay, good. Now the actual fun can begin. Incredible. 5 out of 5. Again, absolute perfection. Lee gave it a 4.7. Highly, highly, highly recommend. If you want to jump in, you probably will want to start off probably with 8. I was going to say 9, but you probably want to start with 8, would be my guess. Either way, if you can find 10, just read 10, and man, it's hell of a ride. Pretty dark, twisted, screwed up stuff that's happening in this absolute universe, and specifically on the Batman side of stuff, but woo, what a journey, what a ride. With that too, I was like, okay, let's just take a look. How many books have I given a 5 out of 5 since I started this podcast? Remember, I started this back in like October timeframe, and here we are, end of July, and I've done, I don't know, like 50 plus shows at this point. At least it feels like that. I think like the regular issues are in 30 something, and then Omegas are high 20s. So yeah, 60 or so issues that we've done of this, and I don't have it listed here, but maybe on my other screen I have it posted. I do. So including Absolute Batman, this is my 4th 5 out of 5 that I've given this year. So I try to keep it extraordinarily rare, and it still kind of remains that way. So what I've given a 5 is Tin Can Society number 5, Tin Can Society number 6, Ultimate Spider-Man number 14, and Absolute Batman number 10. And I do recall Ultimate Spider-Man number 14, that was when Mysterio, that whole reveal of who that is, took place. So if you're interested, that's where that's at, but I don't want to spoil it in case you're holding on to Ultimate Spider-Man for whatever reason. And then Tin Can Society, which is going to be part of the review later today, we'll get to that, but number 5, I'm pretty sure, was the reveal that there's like some sort of baby involved, and then number 6 was the previous one, is the reveal that Johnny actually isn't dead, which both were freaking mind-blowing to me. But we'll get to those. I think that's the second to last book that I said I was going to review. Either way, great way to honestly end the day. I just finished reading the book before I started recording. I was like, oh my gosh, insane. So anyways, book number 2, Absolute Flash number 5. After the high of that is Absolute Batman. This one is a bit more of a filler issue, is what I would say. So I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.8. I'd say this book is fine, but a lot of it is just Wally, who is the Flash, trying to question himself on his powers. He's now teamed up with Grodd, who is this tiny little monkey instead of a gorilla. And for this issue here, I forget the name, maybe it's Lava Man or something like that, but he runs into Heatwave, that's who it is. He runs into Heatwave at the end of the last issue, so now it's like, okay, do I fight Heatwave, do I not, do I run away, what happens? And then Grodd is basically getting this sense of this feeling that Heatwave actually needs your help, but Wally doesn't know how to feel about that. He's like, how do I know? He looks like he's trying to attack. They're underneath in the sewer area, and then Heatwave starts spilling out into the city. So Wally, eventually does listen to Grodd, and he ends up trying to help, but not entirely sure what he did to help exactly. But in the end, Heatwave kind of dissipated and went away, so everyone's safe. But now Wally's kind of going through some PTSD of what happened to his friend, that he doesn't really know what happened, but potentially died in the experiment that led to Wally getting his powers in the first place. And so he's just confused and doesn't really know what's happening. So afterwards he's freaking out, and the orphanage that he was brought into, or a homeless shelter basically, they're trying to calm him down, but he just won't really calm down. So that's most of the story. The other piece of the story is the agency that was doing all these experiments. They've sent out a squad after him. They sentry grouped, and now the head of it is hey, Heatwave was, the guy, Mick Rory was his name. We were doing experiments on him, and they were giving some more information. And now they're yeah, we'll give you even more information, but at this point you really need to go ahead and bring him in. But Mick Rory, let's keep him alive for now. So we don't get too many more details beyond that, but basically the squad, they're also starting to learn more, as us, the audience, and the reader are starting to learn more too. So again, kind of a filler issue. A lot of it was just Grodd saying, oh, it's fine, he probably needs your help. And then Wally's I don't know, I'm a little scared. And that was, 50% of the book. So that being said, the art though was very good. So let's go ahead and jump into that. I feel with the Flash, they do a really good job of making it seem like his powers are both out of control, but then also you're getting the sense of the speed as well. So I like that aspect of it. Obviously, you get a lot of reds and oranges and things like that as I'm trying to describe this to the audience or the audio listeners a little bit more. It looks like Flash actually puts on his superhero suit this time, rather than just kind of running around in street clothes. You get a pretty nice full cover or full splash page there, when he finally, it doesn't look like he defeats, but potentially maybe helps Heatwave, but we're not exactly sure like who's reaching out to him. Grob was thinking like maybe that's actually you in some way, shape, or form. It's really just tough to tell. And then, oh yeah, the closing scene here, the Colonel, who's Wally's father, he's like trying to take matter into his own hands. And then you kind of get this reveal of like there's some sort of alien experimentation that's taking place also in this laboratory as well. We're not all sure what exactly that means, but we'll see where that leads in the next issue. So that's Absolute Flash. Again, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.8. I would say you probably want to jump in the issue before. Issue number 4, I would say, makes the most sense. If you can, just read the whole thing up to this point. I say the art is definitely more where a lot of the creative horsepower is put into rather than the story. It's been the trend. It's a much shorter read. I was able to read it in like 5 minutes. You know, some books are just longer, some books are shorter, definitely on the shorter side. But they definitely put a lot more attention into the art, I would say, for this series. So that's Absolute Flash, number 5. Next on the docket is Imperial, number 2. So this is a Hickman joint, so obviously you're going to get a lot of exposition as per usual, but it's in a really good way. So I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1 for Imperial. We just got all-out war going on right now, basically. So the best way to describe this and to set it all up is we're in some sort of future intergalactic time period and time frame. Got a bunch of different empires and heads of council, and there's this big old galactic council, right? So imagine it in Star Wars, right, in the prequels where you have, like, on Coruscant, the big old council. Same sort of concept. But the weird thing is that a whole bunch of leaders of these councils are dying from this poison, and they're not exactly sure. But then they finally get some evidence that it is poison, and they believe that the poison was created by the Kree and the Skrulls. And at first everyone was like, no, it's impossible. But then the Kree and Skrulls, they say, actually, yeah, we did make this. And we sold it, but we certainly didn't use it. And just when they're about to say who they sold it to, there is a sniper that shoots into the council and kills that Kree, that Skrull, I'm not sure which it was. And then obviously all-out pandemonium just takes place. And the assassin was a Wakandan, or at least they used a vibranium bullet. And they were wearing Wakandan gear. So immediately people just assumed. Everything breaks out, goes crazy. A whole bunch of people get hurt. A bunch of leaders have gone missing, and like the whole space, it's out in space obviously, and it's like this big old glass windshield, and that breaks and shatters, right? So I mean, you got like, imagine someone attacked like the G7, like that's basically what you have here, except a whole bunch of other empires involved. So that's what last issue was, and basically saying it's going to be all out warfare, and this issue is the warfare. So they bring the war to Wakanda. First, all these different empires, they have them surrounded, and it's probably best if I just really show you, because a couple of names are just difficult to read. Here we are. So we have the Shi'ar Empire and their Super Guardians, so that's one group. We have the Wakandans. We have the Spartak, which is basically just Star-Lord, and his father just died. We have Sakaar, which is just going to be Hulk and Brawn together. We have the Kree/Skrulls, which is Ronan and his crew. And then we have Nova. So those are just the different groups that are really represented. And at first, they all end up attacking the Wakandans at first. And as they go and they start doing that, the Wakandans, they actually aren't hiding on Wakanda Prime, which is the planet. They're hiding off on a near moon, and they're basically trying to charge up this weapon that's going to affect all the different ships in the area. They're able to do that and disable all these ships. So from there, then the Wakandans go on to board. When they go on to board is like really when some of the chaos just starts to take place. So Black Panther, he goes on to one ship, he runs into the Hulks, he starts fighting them. On planet side, it looks like there was some advantage that some of the attackers had, and they started bringing on a bunch of prisoners of war, which one of them was Shuri, right? One of the Wakandans. she gets pulled onto board and starts getting interrogated by Nova and Star-Lord. When she's interrogated, she realizes like what this is all about, that, they assumed that a Wakandan was the assassin. But of course, Cherie is like, well, actually, I can very clearly tell that the bullet that was used, this isn't actual vibranium. You can actually manufacture vibranium. It's incredibly expensive to do so, and it's like no sustainable way to do it. That's why nobody would do it. But if you have the means, like the equivalent would be like if you're Jeff Bezos, like you can do it, but you're going to exhaust all your resources, or Elon Musk just spent all your money on just trying to produce the minuscule amount of vibranium. And so, but she's like, with that, I can check though the signatures of like the chemical compound or whatever. It's very obvious that it's not. And they're like, well, we didn't, register it as anything different. It's like, of course you did, because like we're a secretive society that keeps this vibranium to ourselves. So this is like the downfall of doing so. In instances like this, there's only really one person that can verify, and that's the people that own the stuff in the first place. Which is, I can assure you, it surely wasn't us. So you have that all taking place. Then on the Shi'ar and the Super Guardians, it looks like there's some sort of internal coup that's taking place with all their ships being disabled. They're like, now it's a good time to topple their empire. And the Super Guardians are like on a different ship, so they're not able to help or support. Then on the Skree and the Skrull sides, the Skrulls decide, like, F it, like, we're just going to now go back into kind of our primal form, which is basically shapeshifters, and just start attacking everyone. So that's what they start doing. Full all-out war, everyone trying to take advantage of the situation that's taking place. But basically, come to find out, obviously it wasn't the Wakandans. And in the beginning of the books and at the end of the books, you basically have these two people that almost seem like they're sitting on the outside of reality or outside of the universe, and they all set this up so that way all of these different empires would be together in one spot in one place. I guess with their warships and everything and their resources. And there's some sort of jump drive that like brought everyone there, and whoever this entity is, destroys it. And now all of them are stuck, marooned out in Wakandan, space outside of Wakanda Prime, not able to do anything. And so whoever this is, we don't know who it is. We kind of get like a shadowy image. It's going to be revealed, I'm sure, in the next book. There's really only 3 parts to this, and there's some other, kind of tertiary parts as well. But that reveal will come. I was hoping it would be in this book, and that would be then the cliffhanger that you see, but it is not there. So we'll just have to wait for issue 3. So that is the story. Let's go ahead, go through some of the artwork here. Like I mentioned, so here is where those game masters are basically talking about, and it could actually be the game master himself, but we'll have to see. And then, yeah, the war. I mean, a lot of it is just explosions and just lasers and fighting and screaming at each other. It's just all-out warfare pretty much the entire time is the way that it looks like. So a lot of it reminds me of the Miles Morales art style. I don't know if it's the same author or Vincentini. I'm not sure. The one thing I am good at is butchering names. That is for damn sure. But art is dope either way. So it's just, non-stop war is what you have here. And then basically the biggest thing I want to show is the reveal of who it could potentially be at the end here. So we don't quite know who it is, right? The arms are out. I mean, that could be freaking anyone, right? Basically showing the game board have like everyone is knocked over, and whoever is in charge has everyone exactly where they want them. So I'm excited to see where the next one goes. Again, 4. I was between like a 4, 4.5, but I think a 4 is a little bit more appropriate for this one. But either way, I think it is a great book thus far. I would recommend definitely starting with issue number 1. Issue number 1, I think, was a pretty awesome setup, and then the reveal of like what is all going to happen is like, oh, this is where this book is going, is awesome. I think this was a great middle. We'll see what they do to end it all. So that's Imperial number 2. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Next up here, we have Death of the Silver Surfer. So this one I gave a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. I'd say it's definitely between a 3.5 and a 4. What did it for me is how cool, the cover is, and just kind of the premise of what it seems to be setting up. So for the audio listeners, it is a dead like Galactus. You see the skeleton, and you almost see the Galactus like fading away Thanos style from the MCU, like just kind of like fading and crumbling away and being lost to time, and the Silver Surfer riding in on the right hand side, which is just freaking awesome. The first issue I gave the cover of the week when that came out. This one I'm going to give cover of the week as well. Just incredible, just really dope. And the story here is Silver Surfer's just trying to live out his life, just trying to be a good Samaritan for the most part. But there's this group after him. We have this lady, she's a major for one of the shield swords aims, one of them, and is hunting after aliens. She tried against the Silver Surfer, but the Silver Surfer just like has her beat no matter what, and is like kind of killing her with kindness. But she's not used to that. She's used to being the overachiever, valedictorian, the best of the brightest, and light years ahead of everyone else. So she's like can't believe that she's being bested by the Silver Surfer. That was issue 1. Issue 2 here, we pick up and we have this random group, and I imagine it's the same employer of the major, and they go to this dead Galactus, and they're trying to harvest some energy that is still within. So they land there, they're getting this ominous warning from this random little creature there that's sitting there, completely ignore it. I think they literally shoot it, and then they just go in, and it's really just one mad megalo billionaire dude who's like a complete psychopath, but we don't know what his agenda is and the motive behind it, so we're about to find out. But while that happens back on Earth, Silver Surfer of course is doing good, but then I guess there's still this uneasiness with having aliens on Earth and the destruction, the collateral damage, and not being able to do anything. So the major, she goes out, and it looks like she's going to go after Silver Surfer, but instead she's tasked to go after Sakaar, right, one of the Hulks, and I believe Hulk's son. And she goes after Sakaar, and when she goes and she looks like she actually kills him or stops him or whatever the case may be, it is at the exact same time that this group is in this Galactus, finds this power source, and they tap into it. So I don't know if there's some sort of chain in between the two, but that is what happens. That triggers into the Silver Surfer of like, oh no, like something really bad just happened. And Silver Surfer goes up to the major and is like trying to protect her. And then she sees him and was like, of course, I'm after you next, right? You're next on my list. But this takes place on the other side of the galaxy, where it's like, and I don't know how, Silver Surfer instant transmissions over to the Galactus on the other side of the galaxy to see what's all going there. And then when he tries to stop this like crazy group from whatever it is that they're trying to do with Galactus, the head guy takes out like some sort of plasma rifle and shoots Silver Surfer in the chest. So he's down, and then that's the cliffhanger. So we got this energy power, we don't know what's going to happen, and we got this energy power on Earth, and Silver Surfer is now down. So that's the story. Let's flip into some of the artwork here. I can understand the confusion here, because it was like, I thought you were going after Silver Surfer. Why are you going after some of these other beings? So yeah, you can see here, well, you can't really see. I hate when I have the page on this side, but on the other side of the galaxy, this dead Galactus, this little being that's basically repeating the same warning. And then here's our psychopath billionaire trying to figure out, how they can tap into this power. So they head into the actual Galactus to go ahead and find it. Silver Surfer is doing good things, right? Getting apples from trees for kids and all that stuff. But of course, he's still like being persecuted. Then we have the major here. So this is where she is, and being tasked to go after Sakaar. You can see she had some sort of trauma in her past she's been running after and against. And she goes into the fight against Sakaar here, which you can see there. Back on the planet, they kind of tap into this power, and then right when they tap into the power and she defeats Sakaar, this is like where the energy seems to at the same time power with what's happening up in space. And then Silver Surfer, he like basically realizes it at this time of like, oh shit, what the hell just happened? So this is where he decides to fly up. And I don't know if it was just like a warp hole that he fell into, or if he just like crossed into that plane. Couldn't really help understand it or describe it, but that is what happens. And then while he's in front of that ship, he gets shot, of course, right there in the chest. And then we have this robot basically again saying, you can't control this power. So we'll have to see where it all leads from there. So that is Death of the Silver Surfer number 2. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. Honestly, at this point, I would just recommend picking up number 1, seeing whether or not you like it. The covers are awesome. Like, if you want just cool cover pieces to showcase on whatever sort of display case that you have. These are the books for it. Between this one and then let me go ahead and just show you what cover number 1 looked like as well. Like, look at that. Silver Surfer just chilling, one leg up on his board, and it's like so minimalist, yin and yang looking from the colors. I just freaking love it. And then number 2 is like just as good. Again, the cover of the week as well. So excellent job there. All right, next up here we have the New Gods, and this is going to be issue number 8. This one, I gave it, here's where I just differ on Lee from this book, and I feel like it's something wrong with me and not wrong with the book. I don't know. Because it's a Rom V joint. I love Rom V. He's considered one of the GOATs, and like there are plenty of books that I actually love, or not actually, I absolutely love, but for whatever reason, I'm just not driving this one. So I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 4.4. I guess there's just something wrong with me. So anyways, the New Gods, they were defeated on their home planet of Genesis. They showed up to Earth. Earth has reluctantly decided to take them in. Justice League was like, we'll happily take you in. Humans of Earth are like, yeah, we ain't about it, but it is what it is, so we'll go ahead and take you in. And basically, this issue here is the New Gods, or the gods of Genesis, like deciding like, okay, what are we going to do with creating a new home here? So they do create a new home, and they call it, I think they call it like New Life or something like that. They call it New Light is what they call it. And with setting it up, all they're basically trying to do is break some bread, have effectively a Thanksgiving. And as they do that, the High Father goes to say some words. But the High Father, who's basically God, Zeus, whatever you want to call him, he decides, I failed you guys, obviously what happened on New Genesis, and thus I am abdicating my role as High Father. You guys can argue amongst yourselves, whoever's going to pick up the mantle of High Father, but bottom line, it's not going to be me moving forward. And so that's what he elects to do. I think at the very end, then there's some sort of the gods are like showing like this new child god that was born, or maybe the child that was part of the prophecy, and like trying to cheer him up. But I was like, that's kind of weird, doesn't make any sense. And then there's also this other character that was introduced, and it looked like it was probably a big deal of like who I should know who this character is, but I don't know who it is. So whatever that reveal was, I was lost there. So when you mix all that together, that's the 3.5. Say the art is decent. It's good. No issues there. But I don't think it's like over the top that would push it any further. So yeah, here is some of the story. And like Rom V, man, sometimes you just got to read his stuff so incredibly closely. Like this looks pretty cool, right? Look at that splash, which is basically the title page. But here's where they go and they set up New Light, and they're going to break bread. Oh, that's right, Mr. Terrific does this thing. Oh, and I saw the Superman movie. Man, how dope was that? Really enjoyed it. I actually saw that while I was up on vacation. So here's the guy that shows up, and that's like, I don't know who this guy is or what he represents. They really didn't explain it too much. Here's some more where they're breaking bread, and then the High Father deciding like, yeah, I'm not going to be the High Father anymore. I'm just not about it. This whole scene here, I'm not even sure what this is about. Basically, they're trying to decide, like, we'll be the judge of whether or not you're going to stay or not. Then here's the High Father, like, sulking and in his feelings about everything that's happened. And then, yeah, here is the child that I was talking about. And I guess this is basically the prophecy of, like, here's the child that, I would imagine that they wanted to kill in the first place. So I'm not entirely sure what that's about either. And then you have Worlds Collide Part 2 back here. So, yeah, for me, personally, it was a miss. Not quite sure what I missed there compared to Lee giving it a 4.4 versus me at a 4.5, but I was just not driving with it. I don't think it's the time to jump in either because it's, like, super confusing at this point. I'm trying to think back. You almost have to start at the beginning just because Ron V's stuff can just be pretty convoluted, even though at this point we're pretty linear since issue 5, but even still, a lot of names. You're missing out on like a whole war that took place. So if you can start at issue number 1, and honestly, I don't know what a good jumping on point is. Even this doesn't really make sense to me. So yeah, that's the New Gods. I'm going to stick with it. We're kind of close to the end here at a 12. So, but I don't know. I've been struggling with this one. I'm just like waiting for the punchline, and it just hasn't happened yet. So anyways. Then we got the Phoenix number 7. Again, this is one of the backlog ones. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. I thought this book was great. The only thing is like how simplistic the plan was here. So at this point, Thanos and I think it's Gladiator actually are like trying to decide, hey, the Phoenix is out there. The last time the Phoenix was out there in the wild, like it was endangered the entire universe. Like there's no way we can just let her go running around unchecked. And it's between Thanos and Pericus, and Pericus was a evil god that the Phoenix unintentionally like released, like she kind of had to in order to like stop the death of a planet or something like that, or maybe a galaxy. But by doing that, Pericus got out. He destroyed this whole civilization except for one girl, and with that one girl, he basically turned her into a disciple. Her name is Adani, and Pericus and Thanos are like, okay, we need to destroy Phoenix, and Thanos in particular has the Warlock's Eye, and the Warlock's Eye can basically, it's like a mass telepathic thing that can warp people's minds and their perception on things. So he's basically going throughout the galaxies and trying to convince people that the Phoenix is evil. And so with that, and for a moment, Nova was teamed up with Phoenix, also like came to it and almost like started to attack Phoenix. So that happened in the last issue. But she got some help at the very end. So you have Captain Marvel, you have Surf, you have Rocket Raccoon, you have Nova, and Phoenix. And they're all teaming up and trying to figure out how do we stop Thanos. So the plan, which is here's like the simplistic part, is like, okay, Rocket Raccoon, like you can do anything with technology basically. You're going to screw with the Black Order's comms. And the Black Order, of course, report up to Thanos. So they had them all retreat back to whatever planet Thanos is on. And they're like, well, that's weird. Like none of us summoned you here. And sure enough, all the heroes show up and they start fighting, and so they were basically able to have the advantage. And then they can all kind of go after Thanos, but most of them are just keeping the Black Order distracted, and it's really just Phoenix going against Thanos. So with the Warlock Eye, at first, the Warlock Eye starts to try to possess Phoenix because this like relic thing is like super powerful. But the Phoenix is like kind of like the most powerful thing in all of the Marvel universe. Like not actually, but like kind of. And so of course the Phoenix isn't like dying per se, but as it's dying, like it could kill Jean. So the way that Jean Grey is like, okay, well, how do I stop this? She has a tether and a tie with Adani, the girl that Pericus, the god, like the disciple and everything. There's a tie between them. And so she taps into that. And from there, she actually moves the Phoenix's power from herself, Jean Grey, over to Adani. But by then doing that, basically what she ends up doing is relinquishing that power. And it severs, though, whatever connection the Warlock Eye that Thanos had on the Phoenix. So now that is broken, that tie, but now Adani has the power of the Phoenix. And she's pissed off at Jean Grey, so obviously she's not going to be willing to give it back. So now she starts to like rampage basically, and Thanos is like, good, this is like what we secretly wanted in the first place. But it's weird, then the Phoenix makes the decision to return back then to Jean Grey. So it reconnects Jean Grey and Adani like together, and then with that there's like a big explosion, and Phoenix Jean Grey ends up in some other part of the timeline, and that's the cliffhanger. So kind of weird ending, a little bit of a simplistic thing, but the fight with Thanos was kind of cool. Mix that all together, that gave me a 4. So we'll go through it here. Here's basically the formulation of the plan. So like I said, Jean Grey, Nova, Captain Marvel, Surf, and Rocket Raccoon. Like, yep, let's just summon the Black Order together. Here's Adani with her sword. And they're trying to like talk to Adani a little bit of like, hey, you know, everything we did was unintentional, like please help us. And Adani's like, yeah, I don't know about that because you did kill my father, or at least I blame you for it anyways. Here's the Black Order. They were all called back. Then when the fighting kind of begins there, and then from there, here's Thanos, and here's that Warlock Eye that I keep talking about that he has, and when he starts to take over the Phoenix. But from there, that is where she has this connection and relinquishes the Phoenix itself. Oh, that's an advertisement. And then by doing that, that allows basically an opening to destroy the Warlock Phoenix or get like Thanos down. But remember, Adani now has the Phoenix, and it's like, uh-oh, that is not good. But here's where the Phoenix is like, screw that, I'm just going to go right back to Jean Grey. And these two basically connect together. You have that explosion, and Jean ends up in some sort of different time zone. So we'll have to, or different timeline. So we'll have to figure out what that's all about. So yeah, Phoenix number 7. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. This book, again, it is a backlog. This came back out January 22nd, 2025, so quite a while ago. At this point, I think we're on like Phoenix 13, maybe 14 at this point. Let's see here. For just what I have, 13... Yeah, 14 comes out the 27th. Yeah, so 13 just came out the 23rd. So at this point, you know, I wouldn't say go pick this up. Maybe pick up something else. But I've been enjoying the Phoenix. I think it's one of the better kind of one-offs. I thought it was an awesome book thus far. I think a lot of people have mixed feelings on just looking at the reviews on League, but overall, I've been enjoying the hell out of it. So I would recommend picking it up if you're interested at all. Again, that's Phoenix number 7. Then with 4 more left here, so we got G.I. Joe number 9. So I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. It's interesting. I was actually leaning more towards like 4 to like 3.5, but Lee was a little bit higher on it than me. A lot of this story is about Baroness and CoverGirl. So they were compromised and attacked by Raptor, who was actually doing the bidding of, is it General Blood or Major Blood? Let's see, what do my notes say? Major Blood, yeah. So their Raptor is basically doing the bidding of Major Blood and finds Baroness in Paris. And when he finds her, at first, it starts to like kind of like threaten the parents that Baroness has there, but in actuality, he's really just going after them. And so he has them cornered, and Major Blood actually decides to just show up himself. And with that, they're kind of distracted a little bit, and he captures them, and they bring them off to wherever their evil lair is. So you have Baroness and CoverGirl in like the same cell together, and Baroness, of course, is like kind of an anti-hero, right? Really only cares about herself and has zero interest of caring about someone else. So Major Blood basically says like, okay, I'm going to throw in like one sword and you guys fight to the death, and whoever's survives like is free to go. And so of course you're like, okay, Baroness obviously is going to fight and like take out CoverGirl, no problem. But actually Baroness like starts pleading to Major Blood, and then sure enough CoverGirl comes up behind and stabs her in the back, and that's the freaking cliffhanger there. Like, holy shit. So, and CoverGirl is like, you know, as babyface as you can get. So it's like, okay, how the hell did that all happen? Is there some sort of mind control thing that's going on? Is there like a clone? Like, how the hell could she have been stabbed in the back like that? So that's really the biggest thing, is like the cliffhanger that was left on. So we'll flip through some of the artwork that we have here. I'd say, you know, for overall, not that this was a filler book, but it just felt like really that's all that happened in this book. It's just they showed up, they had some fighting, they got pulled into this thing. You have this little minor thing with the Autobots and Clutch, but nothing that was super important. But you go to this jail, and you have CoverGirl and Baroness. It's like a pit. That's the best way to describe it. And Major Blood does this little spiel, throws in the sword. You guys fight to the death. And then here you have actually Baroness saying, no way, not going to do it. And then boom, stabbed in the back. But actually, look at it. It doesn't really look like it's the actual sword. So we'll have to see what all that is. Maybe some sort of sedative thing. But when I saw this page here, I was like, holy shit, no way. So that's G.I. Joe, number 9. The time to jump in would be number 8, if you can get it. I don't think 9 would actually make sense, because you'd miss the whole piece of, like, softening up, or how Baroness is softening up anyways, because she's out to see her parents out in Paris, but see them from afar anyways. So next up here we have Zatanna number 6. And this one, folks, is going to be a confusing one. Not going to lie. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. I would go higher only because of the art, but I wouldn't say because of the story. It's just very confusing on that front. Not the time to jump in. This is the last of this series, and it's going to close this one out. But what you have here is basically the big fight. So on the evil side, you have the Lady White. You have, what was his name? Brother Knight, is that it? Yes, Brother Knight. And then you have this other witch. And so you find out that the Lady White was kind of under the spell of Brother Knight, but then it really seemed like, okay, Lady White was in charge, but behind Lady White was this other witch, and whatever her name was, I don't really know. But the whole point of the story leading up into this is Zatanna. She was stabbed with this magical sword into her literal chest and wasn't able to get it out. And the more she tried to get it out, the deeper it sunk in. And all these different ways of magic trying to get rid of it, wasn't able to. Basically figured out what she had to do in order to get through it. It was like, I don't know, had to do with love or something like that. But she finally got the sword out. And when she got the sword out, now, okay, she's on the offensive. But all these evil people that put that stuff into place, you had the Lady White at first, which was the big bad, but seemed like was under the spell of Brother Knight. But then it actually seemed like the Lady White was really in control, but now seems like she's under the spell of this other dark witch. So Zatanna comes back and fights all of them, brings in like Wonder Woman and a whole bunch of other people, and they start fighting back and forth, back and forth. The Brother Knight, he's in like this big grand palace. He basically comes one with the palace basically and like gets sucked into it. Zatanna had a good friend, the Blue Devil. She frees him, so he's good to go at this point. And then we actually find out that the Lady White was under the influence a lot of this Dark Witch, so they just go after the Dark Witch. They get rid of her. She's gone. So now Brother Knight is sucked into the palace. The palace is no more. Oh, Clayface was also part of this too. So Clayface was a big bad earlier, and he also helps out to basically get rid of that evil witch. And then the Lady White, even all she's done all this crazy stuff. Again, she was under the influence, so Zatanna like just kind of lets her go, I guess. Zatanna is good to go. Her and the Blue Devil are like, yay, we finally did it. Let's go ahead and put on a magic show, as they love to do. So, honest to God, that is the story. Like, I don't know what else to say. That's like, it's a weird one. It really is. It's all about the artwork on this one. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. But the story itself at this point is like so bizarre because you have like this fairy tale thing that's going on, and it's like, oh, was this fairy tale talking about these two? So that's the Lady White there, and then this lady who I never really figure out what her name is, and they're all like weird, like interesting names. But yeah, here is where you have Brother Knight like becoming one with like the palace here. As this big old fight's about to take place. Zatanna showing up. You have Wonder Woman here. Bunch of other folks all helping out. And the big old fight is on, basically. I think the other thing you get here is like there's been this lighthouse that's been throughout this series. And you basically find out finally that the lighthouse was part of like a really nice memory Zatanna used to have back in the day. There's a little glimpse of the sword that used to be stuck inside of her. But it was her and her father and her mother, and one of the best memories she had basically of their family. So yeah, I don't know. The story is weird. It's bizarre. I'm surprised it got as high of a score as it did, but it's the first couple of issues are fine, but once you get to this point, it's like, oh, I've totally lost who these characters are, what their names are, what they're all about, to just be perfectly honest. And then you got some Worlds Collide stuff that happens in here too. So I don't recommend jumping in. I would recommend the whole book just for the art. For the story itself, kind of a pass, unless you're like super into Zatanna and like all the wizard stuff. So yeah, kind of a weird one to review. But that's Zatanna number 6. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. All right, then Tin Can Society, number 7. We got to talk Tin Can Society. So obviously, if you were listening and paying attention to the other episode, or earlier in the episode, I mentioned that I gave issue number 5 and issue number 6 a 5 out of 5. This one, though, I just gave it a 3.5. Unfortunately, this is not nearly as good as some of the other books. Had all these huge reveals at this point. So at this point, it's like, okay, maybe we just need to come down in order to finish off the story. So I kind of get that. But I was pretty bummed out that this wasn't nearly as good as the other books. So what we have here, as I take a sip of coffee, is a crazy story where we have this group of high school friends, and they all kind of went their separate ways. But we have Johnny in particular. He had polio or some sort of form where he's basically not able to walk. He goes off to create an Iron Man suit basically so he can walk. It goes off to make all this crazy amount of money. He becomes like the Elon Musk basically of this universe. But at the very beginning in the first issue, he is dead. He's murdered some way, somehow. So all of his friends like organically kind of come back together. One was like a lover, mistress type person in his life. She was a photographer. The other was like this big sporty athletic guy. He ends up being like on his like ace squad. That's part of almost like a demonstration of the technology. And so that's another one was going to be like a star football player. He ends up getting hurt. So he kind of wants to use the caliburn to like be able, that's what they call it, like the Iron Man suits, a caliburn, to be able to be like healed and stuff, but he kind of flames out. Then there's another one who was like his partner in the whole thing, but Johnny ends up like cutting him out and betrays him, like this whole thing, but they all come together and try to help out. And basically come to find out, Johnny's got this like playgirl or playboy, hot actress model and stuff. And then the board was like trying to get rid of Johnny because they wanted to do something where there's like multi-trillions of dollars that were on the table. He didn't want to necessarily do it. So they're like, crap, we got to like take him out. So Johnny put in all these measures to where the caliburn only works with his central system. So in order, of course, there's all greed and money. In order to do it, they decide take out Johnny. And then what they also do is basically the chairman of the board pays off the model actress to continue to sleep with Johnny, but keep his semen, so that way that they can take it and like create a clone of a DNA with his DNA, and that way they'll have the DNA of the spinal cord, and then basically inject like all these babies into these caliburn Iron Man suits so they can still have control over it, because without Johnny they weren't able to do it. And then they took Johnny out of the scene. So that is what was revealed in issue number 5, between 5 and 6. And then 6 was like, that's how they executed it. And at the end of 6, the reveal was that Johnny is actually alive. So whoever we saw dead in issue 1 was not Johnny. Like, what the F? So now in issue 7, after the reveal that Johnny is freaking alive, like such a crazy book, absolutely incredible. We understand how Johnny did that in the first place. So Johnny started to suspect that the company, the board, whatever, wanted to take him out. So he's like, it's basically cost $750,000 to like clone yourself in a full replicant body. So that's what he did, just replicated his body, put it into a caliburn, programmed it to go and show up at this meeting that he thought he was going to be destroyed at. And sure enough, goes in, they kill him, they assume that it's the actual Johnny, but the real Johnny is still alive. So now that they're all together, they're like, okay, what do we do? They find out that the company, what their real intention is, of course, they want to sell all these things, make all this money. But by doing this is obviously very, very, against child labor laws to be cloning babies just for the sake of being able to control this thing. So they took all this operation and they put it into like international waters to be able to do it. So Johnny has a whole bunch of suits that I guess he had hidden. He has all of his friends suit up. They go and take his super yacht. They're heading out to some drilling base that turned into Gigafactory, while the head of the board, who's like, I guess the interim CEO, is basically trying to sell these things off to a whole bunch of, heads of state this, head of military defense that, and then, they get on the radar that this big old yacht is coming in. She's like, okay, well, lucky us, we get some sort of demonstration, and then sends out, the drone caliburn to go after them. So that ends up being and then like shoots a missile and the whole yacht actually blows up. So that ends up being the cliffhanger. And the thing with it is it just wasn't as well executed as all the other big reveals were. Like, I was thinking the twist was like, oh, for sure, this is what's going to happen. And then, nope, totally, completely different swerve. And then when the reveal that Johnny's actually alive, would have never seen it in a million years. I don't know why, I just didn't see it at all. So, yeah, the whole book has just been incredible. And at this point, to try to keep up with all that, I understand, like, you're not all going to be 5s, like, coming out of that. But we have just 2 more issues now. So this is 7 out of 9. And even still, this is in like contention for being book of the year by far and away. You already have 2 number 5s under the belt. It's just this one wasn't quite doing it for me. So, all that being said, on the art side of things, art is fine. No issues here. It's all about the story for me. All about the story. So, Johnny being alive and then his girlfriend and everything, all pissed off about him, or I guess kind of ex-girlfriend at this point. But he basically goes and explains everything that's happened, and now they got to go and suit up. And then here are all like these drones that they're putting in. So like literal babies that they're putting in to connect to the spinal cord, so that way they can get it to work. And from there, be able to sell it to whoever they need to sell it. So here off the coast of, it looks like south of Africa, is where they have these Caliburn drones, and they're selling them to a whole bunch of military people on this like oil rig. And then all of his friends getting suited up, ready to go on his super yacht. Remember, he's like a crazy billionaire. The whole world knows who he is as well. And the big old demonstration that takes place, and then the explosion at the end, whether they're dead or not. And so the only thing that's like making this any higher is like, I know they're not dead, right? They all got into the Iron Man suits and they're flying off, so it should be fine. But yeah, it's a crazy book up to this point, though. Not the time to jump in. Just start from the beginning. I mean, this one, I say full-heartedly, just start at the beginning. What an incredible story, incredible ride. This is another one of those transformative books where I'm like, dude, this transcends the medium, in my opinion. Like, I can only imagine if they were to put this into other different mediums, whether it be an anime, it would be incredible. If you wanted to do a live-action thing, it would be incredible. Tuck this all into a movie, it would be incredible. Like, just do something with it. My goodness gracious, what an awesome story. So yeah, Tin Can Society number 7, excellent book. Then last but not least, we got Redcoat number 13, lucky 13. So I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.5 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
I think that's the one and only that we have for this show. And so, yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of this book. What a crazy ride this is. So this is the final part of what's called like the Northerner arc. And basically we have Simon Pure. He has gotten these crazy powers by unintentionally and somehow haphazardly falling into this ritual that was supposed to take place for one of the other founding fathers, where every time that you die, I should show on the screen that I gave it a 4.5. You get it a 4.5. But every time he dies, he comes back to life, and he just cannot die. But there are some things that tie him to the country, so he has to stay on the soil. He's a Redcoat from the Revolutionary War, so he's actually not even from the country, but he just keeps dying, coming back, and has all these crazy adventures. So now we've gone all the way from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War. He runs into who's called the Northerner. And the Northerner is actually a time traveler from the future, and he's got all these different weapons and grenades, all from the future, not Civil War era. But then there's also this guy who came in from the future as well, called the Cobbler. And the Northerner is black. He's supporting, of course, the Union. The Cobbler is just, a white guy who's supporting the Confederates. And each side of the war is like, this is like a huge turning point, because basically they brought back a whole bunch of weapons. If the Cobbler delivers these weapons to the South, as you can imagine, modern day automatic machine guns and grenades and rocket launchers, if that's going to go in the hands of the South versus the Civil War, where you just have muskets and stuff, they're going to win. So very critically important in order that they need to stop them. Along the way, Simon Pure and the Northern, they pick up a slave girl, so she ran away and ends up with them as well. And so that's where we pick up. The Cobbler is well on his way. They need to catch up to him, but they kind of know a shortcut on how to get to him. And so the girl is a little nervous, because she's like, after all this, what the hell is going to happen to her, right? She's not going to go back to slavery. But the Northerner, he is obviously well aware of the Underground Railroad. He's like, oh, you can probably stop at this church. They're going to be able to help her out. And then Simon turns back and tries to make her feel better. And then the Northerner gets pissed at him, because he's like, Simon, believe it or not, I've known you for many years. I know exactly what you're going to do. I know exactly what you're all about. You only care about yourself. You don't care about this girl. And it pisses me off to see you do this. Now, bear in mind, Simon hasn't lived up through the future, so he doesn't know any of this has happened, but he does know that he's kind of a scumbag and a piece of shit. So he does think about this a little bit. We get to the point where we get to the fight. So Northerner, Simon, and the girl meet up with the Cobbler. They're fighting back and forth. And it looks like the Cobbler might win, but then Simon actually steps up and he throws a grenade and blows up all the munitions, and they're not able to bring it. So the Cobbler at first is like, okay, you stopped me, but there are plenty of us coming, back to the past to make sure that history goes a certain way. And then the Northerner, for whatever reason, he gets sucked out of the timeline and gets sucked, what we assume is back into his timeline. So with that, like Simon's like, well, I really don't know what to do. Let's go and take the girl, and he brings her back to the church for the Underground Railroad. He hangs out there for a little bit, and then after a while, it's like sleeps on it basically. And rather than just going off, getting drunk, and like playing both sides of the war, making money, he actually decides to join, and he enlists in the Union, and he actually fought in the war for a little bit during the time of the Civil War, basically. So that is the issue. And then at the very end, we find that the Northerner, because all this is tied together for the Ghost Machine universe, the Northerner didn't get pulled back to his time zone. He got pulled all the way to the future into the Geiger series. Now, of course, out of all the Ghost Machine stuff, the one book that I'm not reading is Geiger, so I don't really necessarily know what all is happening there. But I for sure know that there have been some ties back and forth. I know in one of the books here, I want to say it was like issue 9 or 10, Geiger shows up here, and then we had an issue where the Northerner showed up and then went into this whole arc. So it's just been a really cool book thus far. Simon is such a lovable character, which makes it awesome. It's just really well written, and you can see like they try to be funny with it. I find it funny, but then there are elements where it's like, man, it really does pull at your heartstrings of like, okay, what is this all about? What are we fighting for? What's life all about? Yeah, here's a guy who's effectively immortal, can do whatever he wants, but even still, some way, somehow, like he can find meaning and purpose in this world. So it's really like deep and touching at the same time. It's tough to explain, but awesome book, awesome series. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the artwork for this one. You have Simon Pure, the Northerner here trying to figure it all out. And it's funny, got like a little Snickers bar from probably the Northerner who had it with him going to the past. But like, here's the point, right? Like, look at this. Like a straight up assault rifle is what he has here. And these like are the type of weapons that the cobbler is trying to provide to the South, and then the Northerner is obviously trying to provide to the Union side. So here's where all this fighting has kind of taken place. They decide on their shortcut. Here's where this conversation with the Northerner and Simon are about, like, you saying all these kind things to the girl, but, you really only give a shit about yourself. Here's kind of where that final stand takes place. And I guess at some point Simon sees into the future as to, like, what all is happening here. And maybe that's what helps him also realize it. But at the same point, it's more or less what actually takes place here. So you have this big old fight scene that takes place. Simon throws that grenade, blows up all the munitions, which is great. And then the Northerner getting pulled back into the future. And then with that, Simon takes the girl back to the church. And here's where he decides to enlist. So trades in his red coat for a Union blue coat, and he fights in the war. Then we get this epilogue at the end here, where the Northerner was pulled all the way to the Geiger. So I guess this is now going to be the prelude to First Ghost, which I guess is going to be the next series that comes up. So follow the Northerner next in Geiger, and then come back to Redcoat, prelude to the First Ghost. So I guess that'll be the next part here, which seems cool. So yeah, I've been loving Redcoat. Part of me is like, crap, I should probably just pick up the trades on Geiger and get all caught up to that, because all of this stuff has been awesome to me. I've read this, all really the Ghost Machine stuff I've liked. Rook Exodus I've liked. Hornsby and Halo, which is really more designed for like a younger audience. I like that as well. The Rockefellers is also, I like that as well. I mean, all their stuff I think is excellent. So, yeah, I think anything Ghost Machine is pretty good in my opinion. So yeah, I think that will close it out. I feel like this is a longer one, which is unintentional, but any which way, it is what it is. So let's go ahead and... Oh no, it's an hour 4 minutes. That's just about right. But let's go ahead and pull back up all 10 of those books so you can see them. And I like to... This new thing I'm doing is like a little sentence, a little blurb about each one as we go ahead and review it. So we had Absolute Batman number 10, 5 out of 5, perfect book. What an incredible series. It's in the running for Series of the Year. Absolute Flash kind of feels like, more of a filler issue and maybe more of a coming of age. I just would have expected more there. Imperial number 2, nice little follow-up here. Great issue from Jonathan Hickman, but excited to see how it all concludes and who exactly is pulling the strings. Death of the Silver Surfer. It's all about the cover on this one, but now we have this Galactus element that is added, so we'll see how that happens, or what happens there. The New Gods, number 8 for me. I'm just not picking up on it, but League and others seem to think that this is excellent. So we'll see if it turns around for me personally. We have a backlog of Phoenix number 7, the Phoenix going after Thanos and now snapped into a different timeline. Let's see what happens to her. G.I. Joe number 9. So it looks like Baroness is like coming to the light side, but is CoverGirl now going to the dark. Zatanna number 6. The conclusion here of this issue and series. Confusing story, but the art is excellent. Maybe worth to check on it if you're into the art side of comics. Tin Can Society number 7. A bit of a fall off from the highs that were of 6 and issue number 5, but still overall really awesome story, and looking forward to seeing how they conclude this. And Redcoat number 13, nice conclusion to the Northerner arc, and looking forward to see what Mr. Pure's adventures are going to take him next. So those are the 10 books. I do appreciate you guys tuning in, whether it be via podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or whatever your podcatcher of choice is, or YouTube for the video portion. Everything you can find in the descriptions on where you can find me on social media. Next episode or issue of the podcast, like I mentioned, will be coming out on Saturday. As always, we'll talk about the pulls for the current week. It looks like it's going to be a lot. It's like 18 books that I have here, which I hope is the last one over 15. But I actually just looked at it. The way they've been delaying some books, I think a week in August is looking pretty heavy too. But anyway, it's 18 or so books. We'll review 10 as we usually do, and then we'll talk about the pulls for the following week. I'll definitely be doing an Omega for next week as well, and then we'll be fully caught up, I think, all over again, and we'll be back to our kind of regularly scheduled program where you have one on Saturday and then one usually Tuesday or Wednesday. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. I do really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.